you are the daughter of someone that I've interviewed before.
Yeah.
One of the working girls.
Yes.
In South Central. Are you similar to your mom?
Yeah.
Ooh, you ever heard that song? Duck Sauce, Barbra Streisand? Exactly.
Soft White Underbelly is one of the most problematic channels on the internet, on YouTube, here on TikTok. And I used to watch them because they are interesting, but it is incredibly problematic, insanely exploitative. And then he ended up going on this really weird tirade, or not tirade, but like essentially a campaign to promote anti-trans rhetoric through interviewing detransitioners.
A 15-year-old ex-worker, it can't get any worse than that, until you find out the man who's filming and interviewing her is in a relationship with a 19-year-old in his 60s. Y'all, this rabbit hole I just went down is fucking insane. I need to stay off Reddit. So Mark Leda is the owner of the Soft White Underbelly YouTube channel. He does all these crazy interviews. I was a fan of the channel, mostly because some of the interviews are really interesting, but it started to get real shady. So he really lost me when I found out he posted this teenage girl on his YouTube channel, even though she was topless. I saw that he recently did another interview with a girl and her mom, and as I'm doing research, getting ready to make a video about that, I see Mark Leda's girlfriend passed away. Then I see all these videos on how she OD'd and how she's 22, but they started dating 2.5 years ago. Like, I know you fucking lying. This shit gotta be AI. And then I watched the video of him addressing everything, and oh my god. This man says she is very mature for her age and how he's young at heart. Bro, what?
Okay, so I'm not somebody who watches a ton of Soft White Underbelly, but I just put on an interview with an adrenaline junkie. It was like, that was the title of the video, while I was just, getting my day going. And I am shocked at the way that this interviewer talks to the people that he is interviewing. The woman in the video that I watched was talking about how she was SA'd a week prior to this interview. And the way that he talks to her, he's literally getting her to admit that it was her fault. And saying that it's her fault for putting herself in a neighborhood where things like this happen nightly, and are just completely making generalizations about neighborhoods in Los Angeles. That video got over 1 million views in the past month. He probably made so much money off this video. I just Googled it. He pays the people he interviews $50. He paid this girl $50 to sit there and be talked down to the entire time.
Mark Leda, the owner of Soft White Underbelly, is a complete freak, if you ask me. So we talked about the fact that his girlfriend just tragically passed away. His girlfriend was only 22, he is 65. They have been dating for 3 years, which means that she was 19 when they started dating. He made a video going into very graphic details about how he found her, what her body looked like. You guys can go find that video on his YouTube channel. There are so many controversies surrounding this man, so let's just get into a few of them.
Hey guys, it's me here, Comrade Lavender here, and today I'm back with another anti-capitalism deep dive YouTube video topic. Today I want to talk about the topic, the files of Pure Evil, the Mark Leda / Soft White Underbelly YouTube channel files, deep dive, capitalism, true crime, exploitation, etc. So let's get started into this YouTube video topic. But before we get started, disclaimer, everything in this YouTube video is allegedly, by the way. And also, before we get started, all my YouTube videos that are related to this topic, other, YouTube videos I've done, about Terry Richardson, the, predator, creepy, pervert, photographer, and other YouTube videos that I've made that are related to this topic right now will be on the screen right now if you'd like to check my other YouTube videos out after you watch this one. So let's get started into this YouTube video topic. Soft White Underbelly, Mark produces so-called raw, intimate interviews with people ranging from the mentally ill, psychiatric nurses, train hoppers, human trafficking victims, sex workers, porn stars, ex-Amish, white supremacists, sex offenders, drug addicts, executioners. Of those featured, many reside in the fringes of society's most vulnerable and villainized. The founder, Mark, takes vulnerable people who have been marginalized by society and humanizes them by asking them to do and tell their stories on camera. The channel displays an impressive catalog of piercing black and white portraits of its subjects. Each interview is accompanied by a black and white portrait of the people he interviews, and Mark uses a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for the mentally the mental health treatment, living costs, and other needs of the people that he interviews. Soft White Underbelly videos include crystal meth addict, homeless schizophrenia man, sexual abuse victim, and incest survivor. Mark Lita has a career that many photographers would kill for. His Dip Tash series called Created Equal won him the esteem of respected critics and A-list celebrities like Elton John during the Altites. His depictions of Apple's iMac, iBook, and other products cemented his commercial status and success and helped to shape Apple's distinctive full saturation aesthetic. Mark has his galleries in Los Angeles and New York City, a late model BMW, and all of the expected accoutrements of top-tier success. However, a Change.org petition challenges the narrative that Mark is presenting, titled Stop Mark Lita from Exploiting Vulnerable Populations and Individuals for Profit on YouTube. Soft White Underbelly has come under fire very recently and has gotten backlash for the way he interacts with the guests that he invites to tell their stories on his channel. People are deeply disturbed by the exploitation of vulnerable people on his channel, including homeless individuals, drug addicts, sex workers, and minors, and much more on Mark's YouTube channel, Soft White Underbelly. We firmly believe it in the moral and ethical responsibility we all have towards protecting those who are at their most vulnerable state. It is unacceptable that someone profits from their pain and struggles. Mark's channel has over 2 million subscribers, which means his exploitation reaches a vast audience, and he also has had over 70,000 followers on TikTok. The people he films are often in desperate situations and may not fully understand how they're being used for profit and exploited. This practice not only degrades them, but also perpetuates harmful stereotypes about these marginalized communities. Watching his videos over the years and all the surrounding controversies about him, Mark is honestly starting to remind me of Terry Richardson, another pervert photographer who was really successful with predator tendencies and exploitation tendencies. He's always exploiting women, especially minority women, people of color, and children. These photographers are really a bunch of creeps that need to be locked up. Daily reminder that Mark shot these photographs. He obviously fetishizes the pimp prostitute lifestyle these black women are suffering. He exploits them and has a fixation on them that is not normal. This man is red flags all the way around. Concerningly, Mark has interviewed underage girls, including a 13-year-old runaway named Nova. During her interviews, Nova discussed her involvement in illegal activities such as prostitution. This caused particularly worry given the approximate area of which she operates was mentioned in the video, as it is often on Soft White Underbelly. Interviewing a girl in such dire straits without connecting her with a shelter, a police officer, social worker, or someone else who could help keep her safe seems downright irresponsible. The ability to consent to the lifelong consequences of publishing her troubles at such a young age pops up again in this situation as well. Their immediate reaction to Nova's video was that no mirror in such a situation should have their troubles broadcasted to millions of potential predators all over the internet. It was alleged that on lipstickalley.com, he has heavily monetized the video as well, and how they had gotten 2 ads before the video played, so he was monetizing it allegedly and is exploiting this young girl. He should really change the voices and blur out the faces/body of those who are underage. With her face plastered everywhere, sick pedophiles watching it could easily decide to drive however many miles to see her. Nova is a victim of rape and forced human trafficking because children cannot consent to sexual acts, and taking advantage of that is pedophilia. Soft White Underbelly interviewed another 13-year-old prostitute, turns out to be trafficked runaway. Harmony is a 13-year-old and is suspected to be China of Soft White Underbelly. She allegedly has been found and is back with her mother. This man is sick. How can you exploit a 13-year-old human trafficking victim and not think to contact the police or try to help her? In addition, in the case of the inbred family, the Whitakers, which fittingly hails from a town called odd in West Virginia. Serious developmental disabilities call into question consent, even though the participants are not intoxicated. Anyone who listens to the garbled, sometimes nonsensical speech of some of the family members will quickly realize that the subjects are affected by severe mental handicaps. Nevertheless, these videos are some of the channel's most popular, and it would be naive to fail to recognize that some people watch these videos to mock their subjects or try to gratify their desire. In the case of the interviews with victims of severe trauma or sexual or violent nature, some of whom have not had adequate time or therapy through which to process what has happened to them, consent is similarly cloudy regardless of the legalities involved. I believe that filming someone in an advanced state of intoxication is unethical. Such interviewees can't properly weigh the long-term consequences of their decisions because of substance-induced inhibition in the prefrontal cortex (PFC) and other areas of brain responsible for risk-weighing, planning, and executive decision-making. Moreover, the stakes of decisions are raised because their intoxication makes them more likely to divulge sensitive information about themselves and their families, and to use language that is less cautious than their typical language. Anyone who has ever drunk-dialed someone can imagine the potential mortification involved in having a recording of their conversation broadcasted to millions via the internet or social media. Mark has mentioned that he will take down any interviews that interviewees request that he remove. As we know, however, once the materials are published, they are online forever on the internet. Given how young some of his interviewees are, and how negatively their discussions of trauma and mental illness are likely to be viewed by potential employers, landlords, and by other people who might have, power over them in the future, the lifelong ramifications of their decisions to participate in the project should not be discounted. In one interview allegedly on the website concreteconfessionalblog.com, this is what was written on the website. If anything, Mark strikes me as too indigenous. This became apparent when a prostitute who he had interviewed extracted increasingly sums of money from Mark, obstinately to escape her dangerous situation. She later admitted that it was in fact her boyfriend, almost certainly her pimp, who was facing murder charges, requesting and using these funds. In this case, it became clear that Mark's help actually furthered human trafficking and trapped this young woman in highly dangerous situations. Allegedly, several interviewees have passed away of overdoses or other causes, and some have allegedly vanished, so the risks involved in these types of situations are very real. On the same website, it went on to state, allegedly one of the interviews he has done in her interview with Holly Randall aired on YouTube on 1/12/2025, relevant portion. Adult performer Charlotte Sin speaks about how uncomfortable she was during her Soft White Underbelly interview. She states that Mark clearly wanted to hear about trauma. He also encouraged her to tell her story as though she was still a webcam model only, rather than a porn star as well, because he had already interviewed several porn performers. Charlotte expresses doubt about the legitimacy of some of the interviewees' stories and confirms what they have heard from a former interviewee, that Mark has refused to take down these trauma porn interviews, even when former interviewees have asked this of him, despite the fact he promises that this option is always on the table. There are times when Mark is indelicate, such as when he tells a young woman who is anorexic that he has seen way skinnier girls than her. When she gently chastises him for this later on in the interview, he responds, "Well, it seems like anything I say, you're going to take it the wrong way." In one of his interviews with Rebecca, who identifies as a transgender woman and cross-dresses, he says, "Come on, you're not a woman." In another In another worrying case, Mark platforms Kenny Red, a pimp, and his faithful prostitute Martina. Though the two are immensely personable and even wise regarding some of the faces of human nature, their glorification of the despicable, dangerous, and deeply dehumanizing institution of street-level prostitution could put young viewers at risk. Mark gives them airtime without, for example, providing warning signs that highlights the unglamorous realities of sex trafficking, such as facts that the average age of prostitute in New York City and other areas is well under 18 years old, that prostitutes are often beaten, branded, and forcefully addicted to drugs by their pimps, and that pimps intentionally present themselves as boyfriends and later on coerce and blackmail their victims into selling sex, and on and on. Likewise, the deeply likable and philosophical high-end escort Frenchie paints a picture of her profession that is dramatically at odds with the grim reality and experiences of the vast majority of women who engage in prostitution and sex work on the streets. In some instances, Mark's interviewees elevate a deplorable, and he bears some of the responsibility for not providing grounding context for their stories.